think a key survival technique is the ability to adapt to the conditions around you, the ability to conform to whatever new variables are entered into the equation. I'm Tim Garland. This is the Trail Connection Podcast. Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Trail Connection Podcast. Today we're camping out in my secret spot, and I just want to take a minute to welcome you to my fortress of solitude. This is the spot that I come to pretty regularly when I can, when the weather's permitting, and this was the training ground for me. This is a spot that I found a couple years ago and kind of used to run to when I need to get away and just kind of reflect on some things. So I want to take a minute to just thank everybody who took the time to watch and listen to that first episode. And I understand, it's probably a little more heavy than what you were expecting. And definitely if you were tuning in to see, what is the Trail Connection and talk about hiking and camping, that probably was not what you were expecting at all. So thank you for taking the time to listen to it if you finished it. And today I intend on turning it up a little bit and making it a little bit more lighthearted. And I felt like I needed to start there because that's where it started for me. It definitely, I'm not going to say it was a dark place, but it was a definite low for sure. But I came out of that, and so I wanted everyone to understand where I started and how I kind of worked my way through that. So this is the next step in that process. I took a lot of time, a lot of hours of hiking and wandering and exploring, and I found an area that was high enough that it was out of the low-lying swamp area, far enough away that it felt like I was getting away, but close enough that if I had an emergency, I could get out of here pretty quick. And I searched high and low for the perfect spot to get to, and it's pretty crazy because speaking of having to adapt, the way that I came in today was on the complete opposite end of the property, and it's not the typical route that I take in here at all. So that was a little frustrating, and it's even more frustrating when you get out here and there is just water standing everywhere you see. And I know you can't see it on the video, and you definitely can't see it if you're listening to the podcast, but right now I'm sitting on an island in the middle of a swamp. There is water literally standing all around me. I'm on a little high area, and so I guess I chose well. It hasn't been tested like this before in the last couple of years that I've been coming back here, so it's good to know. I'm glad that this spot stays high and dry. It's just all the area around it that you would use to get to it kind of gets underwater sometimes. So, but this is a neat spot because it's so far back and tucked away from, the main trail. it's different every single time I come out here, even when I come in the normal way that I come in, because water level changes and terrain changes, seasons change. I mean, the face of the forest is constantly changing, and it's very difficult for it to stay looking exactly the same. So it took me a little bit longer to find it today because it's been a while. We're just coming out of summer, so it's been several months since I've been back here, and the trail is just different every single time. And what's cool about this is I use game trails. It's not a typical well-defined beaten path. It's an animal trail, and I don't know if any of you have had an opportunity to follow a game trail unless you're a hunter, but it's different, and it's not clearly defined. You're basically following tracks or following a tiny little trail that's cut through grass or weeds or in the mud, and it fades away sometimes. It turns abruptly. But most of the time it just about here and it just kind of follows, the current edge of the water level. So, like I said, it's different every single time. And, it got me thinking as I was hiking out here and, talking about being able to be flexible and being able to adapt. There are things that we want to accomplish in our life, and a lot of us might have similar goals or aspirations, but the path that we each take to get to those or get to accomplishing those might not look exactly the same for each of us. It's we all have something that we're striving towards and something that we're working at. But how we go about accomplishing that goal or attaining what we're going after, it always is different, and it's different for different people. So life throws you curves, man. You gotta adapt to it. So anyway, so today I wanted to talk a little bit about my gear setup for the area out here, and then I've also got something cooking in the fire right now I want to tell you all about that I'm really excited to try, and then we'll wrap it up. So I chose a hammock for camping out here, and because of it being such a low-lying area and all that, I decided that I was gonna go with a hammock because you can't go wrong with that as long as you got plenty of trees, you got something to post up on. So I'm gonna go ahead and give this company a plug. We are not partners at this point, but I just love this thing so much that I just want to thank them. So I have a double hammock made by Everest Active Gear, and this thing's been with me for the last 2 years. I take it pretty much every time I go camping. I've loaned it to others that I'm trying to convert to camp, and so it's been really, really good to experience being outdoors in. And so it's a double hammock, so that means there's room for two, and hopefully one day I'll get to share it with my wife. She's been with child for about 7 years now, because we don't have cable, and it just hasn't worked out for her to come out and camp with me yet, but she wants to, and she's intending to. It's just we got to get our babies a little bit bigger before she's able to do that. But plenty of room in there. It's really, really nice and cozy. It's got an integrated bug net, which is essential if you are camping out here. And I don't know if you guys can see this on the video right now, but I am being swarmed by love bugs. So it's only appropriate at this moment to be talking about a bug net. But if it's not love bugs, it's mosquitoes or gnats or whatever. And this thing is just, it's awesome. If you don't need the bug net, then you can flip it upside down and just lay on top, and it's no big deal. And it's great. It comes with the straps included as well, and all of that comes pretty much for the price of an Inu. And so it's affordable, and you get all the pieces that you need. It also has a rain fly that I have as well, but I don't have it put up right now because it's nice and bright and no chance of rain. So I'm going to keep it up and open tonight so I can take a look at the stars if I can see any and all that. So I also have a insulated thermal inflatable sleeping pad in there, and that one's made specifically for hammocks. It's got a nice spread on it, butterfly type setup to where it spreads the hammock out a little bit. You got plenty of room, and that was like absolutely one of the best buys when it comes to pieces of gear that I've gotten in the last couple years, because it's a game changer. Pretty much before I had it, every single time I would come out and camp, I would wake up multiple times a night with a cold butt or cold feet, and you just, all of the weight kind of goes down to one spot in the hammock, and that's where, when everything's compressed, that's where the cold temperature comes in. So this thing's great because it adds some comfort. It's got padding, but it also has a thermal effect, which keeps you nice and toasty all night. So that's great. Still haven't solved the cold feet problem. Pretty sure it's because my hammock is hanging too low, but I don't know. If you're listening and you can solve that problem for me, please write me or message me, let me know, because I would love to not wake up in the middle of the night with cold feet. So anyway, also got an inflatable pillow that's real nice to have as well. Kind of keeps your neck elevated a little bit, but I love this thing. I love this hammock, and I love this setup. And I got to be honest with you, I sleep better in this than I do in my own bed at home, and I tell everybody that. So I have no problem, recommending these products to anybody who asks. So I've also got a nice little table here, and I know it's probably something that's not essential for backpackers, because you're typically trying to go lightweight and less gear, because if you're going distances. But with this spot being so close by to the truck, I don't mind a little extra weight, and it's worth it to me. See, I'm a comfort guy, so I've been out here so many times trying to cook a meal or prepare something, and I'm right down in the dirt, and the soil out here is real soggy because of how low-lying it is, and it's just always damp. And it's difficult not to just get junk in your meal that you're trying to prepare. So I bought that pretty soon once I started coming out here, and it's been an essential piece of gear for me, especially when I come out here and I'm planning on cooking. But it's cool. It's real lightweight. Breaks down, packs down really nice, and it's only about $30 on Amazon, but it's great for meal prep or playing some cards or whatever you need it to set it on. So I bring that along with me as well. I've also got a chair that packs down real nice as well, and again, this is one of those things that where it's worth the extra pound or pound 10 ounces of what it is to pack on the sack, because being able to post up and recline and just sit back and relax by the fire is so nice. The first few times I came out here, I was sitting on logs and dragging laid over cypress trees that had dried out, as big of stumps as I could bring over towards the fire. I was dragging over here, and before I knew it, I was just like, man, I got to get me a chair. So I picked one of these up as well, and works out really nice. I'm really thankful to have this as well. It's got a pillow included in it, so if you want to lay your head back and look up a little bit, you can. But these two pieces of gear are not essential for backpackers, but for me, I bring them pretty much any chance I get, just because it's nice to be able to set up and have some comforts, and make things a little bit easier. So speaking of meal prep, today I've got chicken breast that I've been marinating in some olive oil with some lemon pepper seasoning, and that's been sitting in there for a few hours. And I typically will bring out something like that. I've cooked all kinds of meats out here, though. I've cooked chicken, I've cooked salmon, I've cooked several different cuts of steak, and all of it usually turns out pretty well. But I like to experiment and try different things out here. So most of the times I'm by myself, so it really doesn't matter if I mess it up or if it tastes bad, but it kind of gives me an opportunity to get some experience and just try out some cool stuff so I can impress whoever I bring out here. And so today I'm cooking a piece of chicken, and right now I've got some red wild potatoes, the tiny ones, mini potatoes, in a little Weber pan with some fresh rosemary and some spices and olive oil as well, just roasting in the coals. And so those will probably be ready about the time we wrap up, and then I'll throw the chicken breast on there and get it going. So I've got a really cool little grill grate that I bought, and it's real lightweight. It's got a fine mesh on it. They're like 1/4-inch squares on there, but I've got a couple lightweight tent stakes that I push down in the ground on each corner, and then lay that grate on top of it. And then I'll take some coals from the fire and rake them out and underneath that, and that's what I use to cook on. And it's worked out really, really well, because you can pull the stakes up or push them down lower if you need to get the level of the grill right where you want it and at a good spot. And so most of the stuff that I've cooked on it has turned out pretty delicious, and I'm excited to try this chicken breast today. So it's funny, I've tried a lot of different things out here, and I came out here with my brother one time, and I cooked some salmon for us, which turned out incredible. I mean, that was some of the best fish I've had in a while, and just the smokiness that you get off of the campfire on anything that you cook adds just this dynamic to the flavor that is really unique, and it tastes like camping. It's awesome. But the fish, man, I laid that out on the grate, and I cooked that on the same side, skin down, which I know some people will flip it throughout. I'm not a professional cook, but I imagine that most professionals would not flip it, but you can if you need to. But anyway, that turned out really well, and the chicken was the fish was perfect. We also had some steamed broccoli that night. I did the same thing with the potatoes that I did with the broccoli, except with the broccoli I poked some holes in the tin foil, let steam escape, and kind of steam the broccoli, and that turned out well as also. And it had the tenderness of a steamed vegetable, but also kind of had that roasted, like, smoky flavor of the campfire. And I threw some spices in there as well with the olive oil to roast it. Really, really delicious meal. And the only thing we messed up that time was I tried cooking rice, and I don't know what exactly happened, but something went terribly, terribly wrong with that, because it did not taste good at all. My brother was a good sport, but I think he got about 2 bites in, and then he's like, I can't do this, man. So he ended up dumping the rest in the coals of the fire. But it was just crunchy. I don't know what happened, honestly. I'm just not a big fan of trying to do it because it's just messy, and it takes a lot of water too. So the other thing you got to think about when you're coming out remote is the volume of water that you're going to bring, and what you're going to be cooking, what you're going to be drinking, all that kind of stuff. And this particular spot, there's not too many water sources around, but even the ones that are, I wouldn't trust at all. I don't know if any of you have seen the Hillsborough River or familiar with the Hillsborough River, but it's not something that the average person would be like, yeah, I drink that, or I drink out of that. It's pretty gross. It's almost a black body of water, and I don't know what exactly causes that. I mean, there's a lot of oak tree leaves that drop around it, and cypress knees and all that, like cypress trees and all that stuff. And I'm assuming that it's runoff, but like from the acidity in the leaves and all that, but I don't know for sure. But I'm not going to drink it, because no matter how much you preach it to me, whether you got a water filter system, you boil it, whatever, like I'll pass, okay? Because I just don't trust it. I mean, you never want to take any water from standing areas, as absolutely, but even the running water around here, unless it's coming straight out of a spring, it's crystal clear, I'll still filter it, but I'm still going to be a little weary about drinking it. I don't know. Growing up, I would come back here and I'd hike and I'd fish with my buddy, and we'd be down the river all the time, fishing and wading and jumping out of trees and swimming. But looking back as an adult, I'm like, what in the world was I thinking, man? It's like there's snakes, water moccasins in there, there's alligators in there, there's probably flesh-eating bacteria. But we would just do it, and I guess kids don't think about that kind of stuff. But as I got a little bit older and kind of realized, I probably shouldn't be doing that. And so anyway, long story short, I don't trust drinking water out there. So anything that I bring out here, like I've got to bring any water I have, I've got to bring it out here. And so I'm just mindful of the amount that I bring. And rice takes a lot, so it's just not worth it to me. Maybe I'll try it again one day. I don't know. It burned me pretty bad, but we'll see. But speaking of water, one time I brought my dad out here, and I felt so bad because I totally messed up how I packed his backpack. He borrowed one of mine, and it's the first time he was coming out here, and we were coming after work one day, and I was at my job and he had a job going on. So when I got home, I was rushed and I was packing up everything real fast, trying to get it to go. And I had these 2 gallon jugs of water that I threw in the pack, and I just threw them right in the top of his pack. And that poor guy, I mean, he was teetering and tottering the whole way back here over logs and around trees and all that kind of stuff, and totally off balance. And I know that's not how you pack a backpack at all. I understand that, but I was in a hurry and just wasn't thinking. And anyway, let's just say the hike back was a little bit better because the water was gone and the jugs were empty. So sorry, Dad. Lesson learned. Won't happen again. But it's a story, something to tell. But anyway, I really enjoy coming out here a lot, and made some good memories, and it's been a good training ground for me. I can't wait to bring my kids out here, camp with my boys, and bring my wife and my daughter, and share with them, some of the experiences that I've gotten out here. But yeah, I sit here and I think about a lot of different things, and it's important to get this time carved away. And sometimes when you're on your own, I mean, solitude, it's a good time for reflection. It's a good time to meditate and just sit back and think, clear your mind, just let it run wherever it wants to run. And there have been times where I've come out here and literally just sat here and stared into the coals of the fire and just thought about anything and everything and just let my mind go. And it's been healthy to be able to do that, because we all get so caught up in just the day-to-day grind of, I gotta pay this bill, I gotta do this, I gotta go do that, we've gotta be here, we've gotta go there, so-and-so's coming over tomorrow, we gotta get the house immaculate, and blah, 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 blah. I mean, it's just constantly one thing after another, and it gets old. I mean, it really does, just having such a busy life all the time. And we all just need to slow down and not try to cram so much into every single day, and take opportunities like this where you can come out and just sit and listen. Just listen to the birds chirping, or the leaves falling, or the animals rustling around. It's been so cool to come out here and be sitting here just hanging out, and all of a sudden a group of wild boar come walking through the area, or be hiking out here and look up and see 2 or 3 deer and spook them, and they run off, take off, and sit back and lay in the hammock and just listen to the birds chirping and the wind blowing through the trees and the leaves. There's a reason why there's these recordings of nature sounds that help people sleep, help people relax. And I never really thought about it before, until this whole process began, but I think that's the way God designed it. I think He designed it for us to enjoy and to be able to be rejuvenated and re-energized and calmed when we just sit out here and just let it happen and let it just be what it is around us, and not try to force anything. And I need that reminder constantly. Just letting things go and just let them do what they're going to do. I mean, I'm not saying you got to kick back and take no action in your life whatsoever, because that's absolutely not the case at all. I think it's extremely important for us to have goals and to try to accomplish those goals and to work forward and push and grow and learn. But I got to tell you, I've learned more in the last 2 years about myself and about life than I have in most of my adult life, and it's because I've taken the time to turn off all the distractions and just live. And I'm still not perfect at it. My wife and my kids can attest to that. I'm still distracted. I'm still a jerk sometimes. And I haven't gotten this perfected, but I am way, way better off now than I was 2 years ago. And there's just not as much pressure on being what everybody else expects me to be. I just be who I am. And for me, like this whole process and this journey has been really incredible from a standpoint of gotten to experience really cool things and amazing places and meet some cool people. But what's been the most incredible about it is just my attitude and my stress level is totally different. It's just things that normally would have been a big deal don't really matter anymore. And the stuff that would normally infuriate me and send me into a blind rage just get me a little frustrated now. And like I said, I still have a long way to go. I still lose my temper, and I still get annoyed and all that. Like this isn't, I'm not perfected by spending a little time in nature. My point is, if you don't take the time to do it, if you don't take the time to cut out the crap and just focus on what's most important and prioritize what it is that this life is all about, you're going to wake up one day and just full of regret. And that's not something that you should do. That's not something I want to do. And so that's part of the reason why I'm taking the time and taking the action that I'm taking now, is I don't want to wake up when my kids are about to graduate high school or about to leave the house and sit back and say, man, I wish that we would have done all these things that we talked about doing. I'm just going to start doing them. My kids want to camp in the backyard. We're camping in the backyard. Who cares if it's 80 degrees outside? They want to take a trip. My family wants to take a trip. Who cares if we don't have a lot of savings in the bank? We'll figure out a way. We'll make it happen. It's the experiences in life that are going to leave lasting memories for your children and your family. And for me, that is of the utmost importance right now. They're not going to care about, what types of meals we had all the time, or the types of clothes that they wore, or whatever, based on what daddy's income was. They're going to think, well, wow, my dad took the time, even though he worked hard, to do fun and special things with us and enjoy the time with us. And that's what I want. I want my kids to have that memory. I want my wife to feel supported, that she's not parenting four children on her own, and that when we're together and we're experiencing things together, that I'm not stressed about every dime we're going to spend because it's going to be impactful somehow. Like, I just want us to have memories that'll last a lifetime and look back on this time in our life with so much joy and with such passion that it was a prime time. So, that's kind of some of the stuff that I think about a lot, when I come out here. And I think that that's important for other people to try to do as well. And so I would encourage you, you don't have to have all the fancy gear that I've got, or you don't have to have, the best type of equipment. You can get something relatively cheap. You can get something pretty affordable. And just go. If you have an inkling at all to do anything that we're talking about, just go and just do it. Don't let anything hold you back. So there you have it. That's my monologue, and that's my deep thought for today. This show is gonna change a little bit as it progresses and transition more away from the philosophical, the thought-provoking stuff and discussion, and get more focused on the topic at hand. We're going to be talking about hiking and camping and a bunch of different variety of topics surrounding those two things or three things. And for those of you who are looking for a podcast, that's what it is. It will get there, but please understand, this has been a process for me, and I'm trying to lay out that process and that journey for those following along, and get you to understand kind of where I'm coming from. So for those of you who are interested in this type of thing, that like you're wanting what the first episode offered and what maybe the last few minutes offered, I would encourage you to check out our social media pages, because I'm constantly posting pictures and thoughtful captions, that have more of a motivational and an inspirational type message. And this show will have some of that sprinkled in, but overall we are going to be getting into more of the specifics of different topics surrounding this hobby and this activity of camping and hiking and backpacking and all that stuff that's involved. So I encourage you to keep following along. If you haven't already, go follow our Instagram page and like our Facebook page and subscribe to us on YouTube. And you're going to get a lot of different content through there, and I think that you'll see that over time we're going to find our groove, and we'll get there. But again, this is just a work in progress, and these types of things take time and money and all kinds of stuff to be artistic and be creative, and I just most of all, I want to be real and genuine with my audience. I just want you guys to see what I see through my eyes and through my personality and through my perspective, and try to bring you into the realm that I'm operating in right now, and share that with you. So if you are encouraged or excited about this process and this path and this project specifically, then I would really encourage you to go check out our Patreon page, and look at some of the different packages that we offer on there, subscription tiers that are available, because not only is that going to help support the show, but that's also going to give you an insider scoop, an insider perspective to a lot of stuff that we're doing. There's a lot of content that will be available through that avenue that is not going to be available to everybody else, and it's going to be a huge help to be able to get this show to the level that I want it to be at, and move us down the line a little bit, and help us be able to accomplish some of the goals that we've set up. So if you have some time, I would encourage you to go check that out. And thank you again for everybody who's taken the time to listen and follow and subscribe. And we are now on all podcast platforms. I believe the only one that we're still waiting on confirmation back from is Pandora. But other than that, you can plug in the Trail Connection on any of your podcast apps, and we will show up. And we are also starting to build a presence and a following on social media as well. So be a part of that community, jump on there and help support us. And thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate every single one of you, and the support that you're giving, and the positivity and everything that you offer. And keep tuning in, because we're not done yet. We're just getting started. And so next week we introduce our first guest, or the next episode we introduce our first guest to the Trail Connection. I think that's going to completely change the dynamic of the show, and I'm super excited to get that going and get that rolling. And really, really pumped to get you guys along the way with me and bring you along. So thanks again for tuning in. See you back in a couple weeks. This is the Trail Connection.